What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. It's been a little while since our last video. Last time we were up here, we were breaking down a potential Morgan Rielly to Seattle Kraken, just kind of see how that possibility could play out. I mean, with the Kraken, the expansion draft coming up, you never really know what teams might be thinking heading into it. We saw an absolute gong show with Las Vegas joining the league. Everyone was kind of freaking out, thinking, oh my God, don't take this guy, don't take that guy, and they traded with what turned out to be an absolutely incredible team for Vegas, going to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year in the league. They couldn't have painted it any better if you asked them to. I couldn't imagine them sitting there in the boardroom thinking, next year we are going to the Stanley Cup, Cinderella run, but they've turned that team into an absolute competitor, facing off against Montreal Canadiens right now in the semifinals of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And with Seattle's expansion draft around the corner, there's a lot of questions up in the air as to who could be taken, what guys could be moving where. So we broke down a potential Rielly to the Kraken trade and how that might play out for the Leafs, or if that could be something that Dubas and the team would like. Now, going into next year, there's a lot of uncertainty as to who comes back. Not only is the expansion draft a big factor and causing fear in some teams as to who they might lose or what they might have to trade to protect some certain guys, but that aside, this Toronto Maple Leafs team is looking at a bunch of guys up as free agents at the end of this year, or I guess this season is over now, but once the playoffs are done, free agency rolls around, you're going to have big guys like Zach Hyman. You even look down to a guy we just acquired in Nick Foligno or David Riddick moving on from this team, Freddie Anderson, UFA. Like, these are all guys who could potentially be moving on. Some of them will be moving on for sure. I know that if you look at a guy like Joe Thornton or Wayne Simmons, the odds of them coming back aren't likely. But this team needs guys to play on minimum deals and to perform, whether that be young guys being inserted into the lineup or other veterans like we saw with Joe Thornton and Wayne Simmons coming back on cheaper deals to go into this lineup and try to make some kind of impact. When you have four guys eating up half of your salary and you've got couple big guys on the defensive end who are going to take a big chunk of money in Rielly, Muzzin, Brody, you need guys to pitch in on very, very minimum contracts or league minimum. And teasing into the league minimum there, the most obvious signing for this Toronto team in this offseason, I think, was bringing Jason Spezza back. Zach Hyman is obviously somebody that everyone's going to look at and say, we need, or we really, really want Zach Hyman to come back here. But that may be a casualty of the cap come July, or come free agency in July. You never really know how that one might play out. So, as a certain signing, Jason Spezza coming back is an absolute no-brainer. There's no other way to put it. This is a guy who loves the city of Toronto. And, like, him signing a league minimum deal, I know that at his age and his experience in this league and what he can how he produces on a team now, it's not going to necessarily be looked at like this, but a league minimum deal for a guy who did what he did the past 2 seasons in Toronto, the leadership that he obviously brings on and off the ice, and even just the impact that he made on the ice. Like, you think about that fight that he had in Columbus, literally fighting to keep this season alive. And then you go to this season where in the playoffs against the Habs, 3 goals, 2 assists. He finished tied for third in team scoring in 7 games. Like, this is an older guy who was in his 18th season in the NHL playing on a league minimum deal, who said he would only play in Toronto, just absolutely making an impact in this lineup. 5 points in 7 games from a guy like that. There's nothing more you can ask for. That is even just goes outside of the leadership that he's bringing in the room or on the bench or whatever else he's doing. Now, Spezza re-signing here, I think, is a huge thing for other veterans around the league. We saw Joe Thornton come last year, Wayne Simmons come last year, and these guys said, yeah, I want to go to Toronto, I want to try to win a cup, I want to be on a good team. It didn't pan out, but these guys were willing to take less money. There was, by all accounts, there was offers on the table for a guy like Wayne Simmons to go elsewhere, to make more money, maybe sign a 2-3 more year deal, but he decided to come here to Toronto. Other guys looking around the league and seeing Jason Spezza re-signing in Toronto and quoting, saying things that like this after he signs. These are quotes from him after his signing yesterday, sorry. If I could take less, I would. I love the game. I love competing. Like, that is a line that you can't ask for much more than that from a veteran guy who's proven in this league, is proven to be able to make an impact on your team and still in today's game. And when you're looking for guys to fill out a roster, to not just be names on the list, but to be actual impact guys, hearing those words come out of their mouths, I would take less if I could. That is just like money in the grave to Kyle Dubas and the rest of this management group. Hearing a guy like that say something like that and wanting to come back to Toronto so badly. I know one of the big problems that we've had here in the past is big name players don't want to come here because they're worried about media scrutiny, or they're worried about all the things that would come with it by the fan base, by fans and friends being around. This is a guy who's come to Toronto and absolutely embraced being a Toronto Maple Leaf. Now, he didn't get the full experience because his first season here was cut short by COVID, and then last season they didn't even play with any fans in the stands, so you didn't even get that kind of opportunity. But he very clearly loves being in Toronto. He loves playing here. Even when he went on waivers, he said, if I don't play in Toronto, I will retire. Like, this is just outstanding, and obviously this guy loves the team, loves competing, loves the game of hockey, and is here to win a Stanley Cup. This is a no-brainer move, and very much so helps this lineup. This is a guy who can win faceoffs, he can get points, he can start on the penalty kill, he can play power play minutes, he can contribute basically in any way you need him, and he can be relied upon. I know Sheldon Keefe would look down the bench and say, I know what I'm going to get from Jason Spezza on a nightly basis. Like every single night, every time he goes over the boards, you know what Jason Spezza is bringing you, and he's bringing 110% effort, if nothing else. So this is just absolutely incredible from him. Now, you look at what he did in the regular season last year: 30 points, 10 goals, 20 assists in 54 games played. That is incredible. Those are outstanding numbers from a veteran guy playing his 18th season in the NHL. He's in his late 30s, and he's just playing the game because he loves it. But he's still able to go out there and contribute points like that. 30 points in 54 games played. It's impressive numbers. It is impressive the amount of impact that he had and the contribution that he was able to bring to this team. And even if he brings, I don't know, let's say he brings 80% of that contribution next year, it is still far and above what we could ask for from a veteran player playing on a league minimum deal to play on the fourth line on this team. This is exactly what you need from a team that's going to go compete and try to make it deep into the playoffs and actually hopefully have some sort of playoff success next year. Now, even more, like you look at this guy had 24 5v5 points. That's top 70 in the NHL last year. Of all the guys in the NHL last year, Jason Spezza finished top 70 in the league for 5v5 points with 24. And just a couple of the guys that he was tied with, some superstar players on 5v5 points: Alex Ovechkin, Blake Wheeler, Anze Kopitar. He tied these guys 5v5 points, playing less minutes every single night than they do. Now, these guys obviously contribute significantly to the power play, but that's not to say Spezza doesn't bring some sort of impact to that power play that the Leafs roll out there. That second unit, he was out there, he grabbed 6 points. It's not mind-blowing numbers, but considering that second unit is playing like 20, 30 seconds of a power play at most, it's great to see a guy be able to contribute that way. And then when you look at his 5v5 numbers, like there's nothing to complain about there. This guy is obviously much more than a specialty player at this point. And for him to be able to contribute that way this late into his career, I think the Leafs are getting an absolute bargain for bringing Jason Spezza back. $750K league minimum. It also leaves much more room in the cap for other signings. If you want to bring back Zach Hyman, you want to bring Nick Foligno back, or you want to look into the free agent market and you want to take a run at a guy like Dougie Hamilton or a Mike Smith as a backup goaltender. Whatever the situation may be, $750K league minimum deal from a veteran player to come back here who you know can contribute, who is familiar to this environment, familiar to the locker room, familiar with the coaching staff. This is absolutely perfect, an obvious move, a no-brainer, and I love this signing of Jason Spezza. Now, looking at the team as a whole here, one of the big things that people were worried about was, where is everyone going to slot in? Who's going to be missing? What are we going to be missing here? So now just looking at guys that we know for sure will be coming back next year, expansion draft aside because we don't know who will lose in that, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. That first line is still there. We don't know what's going to happen with Zach Hyman, but that's fine. Now, assuming Nick Foligno moves on here, you got Ilya Mikheyev, John Tavares, William Nylander. Then you move on to Pierre Engvall, Alex Kerfoot, and then you kind of don't really know where your right winger could be at here. But looking down, you got guys like Nick Robertson, Semyon Argentintsev, and even if you take a chance and bring over Amarov, from the KHL where he's playing. Like, these are guys who could jump into this lineup and make some sort of impact, whether it be lower down or you want to give them a shot on that first line, you want to move things around and put them on the second line, however you want to do it. These are guys you could insert into the lineup and make some sort of impact or have some sort of development that shows you, hey, these guys can play in the lineup every night. Because even more, moving down to this fourth line here, you look at Adam Brooks, he's coming back next year. This is a guy who had a shot in the lineup and it performed. Like, we looked at it going into the playoffs thinking, this is a guy who might have fought himself away into this lineup on a nightly basis. And then you even move over and you got Jason Spezza back on that right wing. There's really only at this point 3 holes on that forward unit to fill. Your first line left winger, your third line right winger, and your fourth line left winger. Now, I know Ilya Mikheyev is not the ideal guy to be playing on that second line. Maybe you want to move him down to the third line, but those are going to come down to some of these offseason signings that we're going to have in the free agency here. So I'm not too worried about that. You move on to defensemen here. Morgan Riley, TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin, Justin Hall. We know these guys are coming back. Rasmus Sandin, he can't be picked up by Seattle in the expansion draft. Perfect. Slot him in on number 5 there. And then all you're really looking at is that right D. And the only reason I have it up in the air is because Travis Sturman is an RFA this summer, so he may or may not want to re-sign. He may try to get an offer sheet from another team. He may want to hold out. He may be picked in the expansion draft. We don't really know. But even with the fact that he's an RFA, we can almost just slot him in there and say, okay, we got 6D coming back, and we only have 3 forward holes here. We have some depth in the system. We've drafted pretty well according to scouts, media members. By all accounts, we have guys coming up who can fit into this lineup. Even like you look at Nick Patan, I know he's not the greatest player and he's not the guy we want to see in the lineup every night, but he's a serviceable player who can slot into that fourth line if need be. And when he did get in last year, he did make some sort of impact, and you could tell this guy wanted to be on the ice. He wanted to be in the lineup. He wasn't making insane plays or anything that would say, oh my God, this guy needs to be in the lineup every night. But he brought the effort, he brought the intensity, and you could tell that he was fighting to be here. And then goaltending, Jack Campbell, Michael Hutchinson. Not the ideal tandem. Jack Campbell coming back, we absolutely love that. He played incredible last season. Hopefully he can keep that up next year. But then you even look into the system of the Marlies or the drafting that this team has done. You've got guys like Ian Scott and Joseph Woll coming through here who could be able to hop in there as a backup role if you do not go out and sign a backup goaltender in the offseason here. So all in all, we're really looking at a backup goaltender spot, potentially a 6D. We don't really know what happens with Dermott, but let's just say a 7D. And then you're looking at 3 forward spots here open. Bringing Jason Spezza back absolutely locks in that fourth line right winger spot. It's great to have him back here. And then other than that, we're pretty much rolling back with what would be a very similar team to last year. And hopefully this team can make some big moves in the offseason, whether it be through trades or free agency, to absolutely push this team over the limit to be able to compete and go out there and win a Stanley Cup next year. Thanks for tuning in, Leafs fans. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown of this Jason Spezza signing. I absolutely love it. And honestly, I think this guy should eat free in Toronto at this point. Like, we went nuts for the Kawhi and Dine, trying to bring him back. Well, how about we celebrate a guy who actually did come back and does love playing in Toronto and won't go anywhere else in the NHL, literally threatening to retire if someone else tries to pick him up. So it's even like Seattle won't take Spezza in this expansion draft. So good for the Leafs for this signing. I absolutely love it. We'll see you guys in the future with some more breakdowns of some signings, free agency news, injuries, whatever the case may be. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.